to the channel. Today I'm going to be going through about 20 running terms that you may not know. I'm kind of aiming this video at beginners, so if you're a new runner for January, hello, welcome. Let's get into some running terms, shall we? First set of running terms I have for you are some basic running terms. So these are ones that, as a beginner, you're likely to come across fairly quickly in your running journey. So let's start. Your distance can be measured in quite a few different ways. The two main ones are miles or kilometres, and they're just basically imperial versus metric. Depends which one you fancy. Most race distances can be done in both, and just training can be done in both as well. If you want to do the conversion, it's 1.6 kilometres per mile. Going hand in hand with that, you've got pace, and this is how quickly you're going. So this is often measured in minutes per. So this could be minutes per mile, and that's literally how many minutes does it take you to do a mile, or it could be minutes per kilometre, how many minutes you do a kilometre in. And again, it just depends what metric you're using as to what. It's quite hard to compare these two. There's no easy way to just be like, oh, this is this in miles, minutes per mile, so therefore it's that in minutes per kilometre. It's just something that you kind of learn, or you just Google. I do that quite often. I'm a kilometre girl, but the club is in miles, so I always have to flip it whenever I'm talking through what's what. The next three running terms are all about the kind of terrain that you're going on. So you've got a trail run. This is where you're probably running on mud or through the woods, something that's kind of more natural footing. So just what it says, just trail basically. It can be quite hard to find these if you live in the city, so you might be more likely to do a road to trail run, so a bit of both. Then you've also got road run, and this is a run where you're on pavement or roads. So today, don't know if you can see, this is road, so we're just running along the road. There's not a pavement, if not we'd be on that. Yeah. Usually road runs are potentially a bit easier because the surface is flatter, so you can go a bit faster. There's less looking at where you're going, although today it's a little bit icy, so I'm having to check, make sure I'm not going to slip or anything like that. Then the final type of run that you might come across fairly quickly in your running journey is a track run. So this is where you're running usually around a 400 metre track. You'll likely find these by quite a lot of running clubs will base their kind of sessions from a track, so there's always an option to have a track run. And a track is basically a little bit squidgy, so it gives you a little bit of return and can make it easier to go at faster speeds. You can get special track shoes, but really it's up to you. Alright, session types. So when you first start running, you think every run is the same, and here I am, I'm going to tell you there's lots of different types of run that you can do. I'm not going to go through all of them, just a few that I think you might come across quite quickly. So the first one is a long run, and this distance honestly doesn't really matter. A long run is different to everyone. For some people a long run is 10k, for other people a long run is 50k. It really depends what you're training for and what you're doing, but as it suggests, it's a little bit longer than usual, so it's going to take you longer, and it's building up your endurance. You usually do it at a steadier pace than your other runs that are a bit shorter. Recovery run. So this is literally a run that is for recovery purposes. So you go really slow, Distance is usually short, but not too short, and it's just to make sure you're still moving and you're not seizing up. So maybe you do this the day after a harder one or the day after a long run, just to make sure you are still getting movement into those legs and not being immobile, and just keeps you ticking over. Then you have the interval session. This is a big one. It can come under lots of different terms. I'm going to stick with interval session for now. And as a beginner, you might be doing a Couch to 5k program or anything like that, where your run is split up into chunks, and all of those chunks of running are effectively an interval. So you're doing one pace, which might be your walk or your gentle, and then you go a bit faster during the actual interval. And so therefore it's an interval run. It doesn't need to be crazy speeds. The length of those intervals will change depending on what you're working on, but for the most part, an interval run, generally 3 minutes max for those intervals, but it can be longer. But then you're kind of diving into a slightly different run, which I'll talk about in a different video if you want me to. But put your thumbs up on this video if you want me to do a more advanced running guide. This next session term is a little bit of a puzzle because it can take up many different forms, and that is the, I'm going to call 6 by 3 minutes, but you can change those numbers to be anything. So it could be 10 by 2 minutes, something like that. And that is a kind of like a very specified interval session, in the fact that you're doing 6 lots of 3-minute intervals. So you'll run hard for 3 minutes, you'll have a rest, and you'll do it again another 5 times. So you've done it a total of 6 times, and that makes up your 6 by 3 minute session. And again, it can be changed, it's just a formula. So yeah, that's a type of interval session that might. Fartlek sessions are another type of interval session. They're less structured, so instead of having the formula to work out, you are simply just picking places in your landmarks as to where you want to speed up and slow down. I'm just turning around here so you can see the sheepies. So if fartlek, you might choose lampposts, you might kind of run a bit faster between the 2 lampposts that you can see and things like that. Just choose different landmarks and keep going. It is speed play, and that's all you're doing. You're running with that speed play and changing up, just playing with it. These next 2 are things that you might do at the very end of an easier run. They are sprints and strides. So sprints are where you say do 100 meters, all out effort the whole time, and you might do about a few of them at the end of an easy run, just to kind of get some turnover in those legs and keep them going. Or you might do some strides. So these might also be 100 meters, but instead of trying to hit your max effort for the whole time, you're gradually speeding up throughout that effort, so it's not all out the whole time. They are really closely linked, and it is quite hard to work out which one you're doing sometimes, but that is the difference. So sprints, kind of maintaining a heavy effort the whole time, and strides, you're gradually speeding up throughout that effort. Right, my next set are all about different races, and these follow almost the same as just your normal runs. So you've got a road race, which is a race on the roads. It might involve closed roads, or it might involve open roads. It depends. If it's a smaller race, it's likely to be open roads and you're just avoiding the traffic. If it's a big race, a big city, half or something like that, you're likely to get closed roads and be able to not worry about any traffic. Then you have trail races. So these are races through the trails. Now, there isn't many trail races that are all trail. There is definitely a few that have a sneaky little bit of road or pavement or something that doesn't quite feel like trail snuck within it. It might only be 100 meters, but do think about that if you do go for a trail race. It'd be quite hard to get longer distances, especially into our English trails if you're in the UK, but for the most part they will be trails. You can then also have mixed terrain, and this is where the organisers are openly just saying like, hey look, a bit of it's on the road, a bit of it's on the trail, kind of choose what shoes you want. You might want the road shoes to try and have a fast road section. You might want to try some trail shoes for those trail sections, but really they're just saying it's probably about 50-50 or 60-40, so do kind of choose appropriately. You also have ultra races, and these are the kind of rule is that anything over a marathon distance is an ultra, but most people kind of say actually it needs to be 50k or more. So in kilometers, a marathon is 42 kilometers, so that's an extra 8k. And honestly, these ultras can be road, they can be trail, they can be anything. I just wanted to give you an ultra race term. Now this term you're likely to have heard quite a lot, even if you've only just started. In fact, it might be the reason why you started running, and that is a park run. These are 5Ks in quite a few different countries. In the UK they start at 9 a.m. if you're in England, or I think it's 9:30 in Scotland. They're on a Saturday morning. It's a community event, it's free, and yeah, you just go along. If you want to get your time on the like leaderboard, you want to sign up and get a barcode, but you honestly don't have to. Just make sure you take a chip so everybody else's time is also correct. That's all your race terms for this video. And your final two terms, I'm going to call these the social media terms. And the first one is elapsed time. This is the time that it actually took you to do that activity, including that 20-minute lunch break in the middle, or that minute where you tied your shoelace. Also, all the times you had to stop at traffic lights. So this is potentially a true mark of how fast the activity took you. And that's elapsed time. I know on Strava it can be quite hard to find elapsed time, but you can find it on people's things. So if they do like quite a fast Sunday run, you might want to check in and see how long it actually took them. Their 2-hour run might actually have taken them 3 hours if you go to elapsed. And then the other one that goes on with that is moving time. And this is how long you're moving during that activity. So this is all the time that contributes towards your pace. This one takes out the time you've stopped for tying shoelaces at traffic lights, and so you're only really seeing the time that you're running or moving. So it can be a good estimate as to what your current fitness and pace is like. Alright, that's it from me. If there are any running terms you're stuck with, put them down below and I'll try and decode them for you and give you an answer as to what they mean. I hope you've enjoyed, and happy running everyone.